You can collect all 8 Bigfoot monster trucks. There's one in every McDonald's Happy Meal.
Salt sense? Salt doesn't make sense, Mom. We eat too much salt.
New Salt Sense makes sense. It contains 33% less sodium.
But salt doesn't make sense unless it tastes good.
Salt Sense tastes great because it's real salt.
Bodybuilders that ever into my brand new Prel bodybuilding system. New Prel shampoos in even more body for more fullness. New Prel enhances all that body with better manageability. Because when it comes to body, Prel says, the more the better. Cotton candy, ice cream, and now hot dogs? What next?
Heartburn.
Right.
Here comes the soothing relief of Pepto-Bismol. The one that coats is the only one you need.
That's the heartburn.
What heartburn? Hey, you gonna finish that?
Yes.
In this letter today punishing Rose, Giamatti wrote, the extremely ugly situation that developed was one of the worst in baseball's recent memory. Such disgraceful episodes are not business as usual, nor can they allow to become so. But here at the ballpark, things were pretty much business as usual, except for one thing. Pete wasn't here. No, the suspension hasn't taken place yet. Pete was at home recovering tonight from knee surgery. So Pete has left his defense up to Reds general manager Murray Cook. He says Pete will definitely appeal tomorrow.
He recognizes that the suspension would be in order. He certainly realizes that his actions were improper, but it's the length of the suspension that he and we question.
Giamatti's statement didn't stop with Pete. He went on to criticize Reds radio announcers Marty Brenneman and Joe Nuxall, who he claimed helped incite the crowd. Marty and Joe are being called to New York for a meeting with Giamatti. That will happen tomorrow. Now, even though Pete was not in the dugout tonight, chances are he will be back tomorrow pending his appeal. And I got to tell you, all that aside, what a night at the ballpark tonight. We almost had the first perfect game in Reds history. Reds pitcher Ron Robinson was just aces. I'll tell you about that coming up, along with more on this.
And he knew exactly what was going on, and he felt that it was important that he appeal and be given the opportunity to give his side of the story.
The appeal is heard by baseball's executive council. Katz tells us the appeal will be heard quickly, probably within a week. At Riverfront tonight, the fans are seeing red over this whole situation. They tell News 5's John London on the night beat the 30-day suspension of Pete Rose is way out of line.
As game time neared outside Riverfront Stadium, the general feeling of the fans could be summed up in 2 words.
It stinks. They're pretty upset about it. They don't think you got a fair deal there.
Even the ticket takers were talking tough.
I think it should be about 3 days.
And on the inside, the feeling towards National League President Bart Giamatti was even stronger.
I think Charlie Lucan, as mayor of this city, 1 week before the All-Star game, should declare Bart Giamatti persona non grata in Cincinnati, and if he steps his foot in here, send him back where he came from.
What about the argument that Pete bumped the umpire?
Pete bumped the umpire by foot. I'd have killed him if he'd have poked me in the eye with his finger.
Justified, or is that a big sin?
That's not a big sin, but I don't think it's very just.
I've been around baseball now 35 years. You know, to me, that's the longest I think besides Leo DeRocha for a year.
We also talked tonight to the Reds' #1 fan, team owner Large Shot, who is understandably concerned about the conduct of the fans last Saturday night.
I hope we never see a scene like that again in this stadium because we're so family-oriented. You know, I told the commissioner, I said I thought I was in New York, you know, and we don't want that here, really. It's just one of those crazy things that happened, and everybody's sorry. They really are, including Pete.
But the fans, like Pete, will have to live with it. Not happily, of course, but that's baseball. John London, News 5 on the night beat.
Of course, Ken Brew will have highlights of tonight's game a little bit later, and Jerry will have some thoughts on the whole controversy later in his commentary.
Now, above all the turmoil at Riverfront Stadium, there is some tranquility. A dove has built a nest right above the announcer's booth. And since the dove represents peace, maybe the situation at Riverfront will remain calm, at least until the dove flies south for the winter. So right now, I guess Marty is vote the only ones.
Vote for me.
Yeah, I used to vote once. Oh boy, we are talking about, all day we've been talking about the Reds.
This day has taken you from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Yes.
I mean, when you think about it, really, how often does that happen?
a year.
At least. Or 8. Two things are going to happen when the sun comes up tomorrow. One, Marty and Joe are going to get on the big bird and fly to New York. The National League president wants to slap their hand for getting the crowd a little worked up on Saturday night. And 2, Pete will appeal his suspension. 30 days. It's going to seem like a year to Pete. And this is what got him in trouble. You've seen it a million times. Here's 1,000,001. Arguing the call with umpire Dave Pallone. The day the word came down, 30-day suspension. The Reds players were thinking about it.
It's not fair to us, players. And, when you're the team leader, the man who runs things, calls the shots, is gone. It's going to be kind of tough on a coaching staff now.
All right, here is what was handed down, so decreed by Bart Giamatti. Such disgraceful episodes are not business as usual, nor can they be allowed to become so. An umpire, for pushing an umpire, manager of the Reds, Mr. Pete Rose, is suspended for 30 days and fined a substantial amount. He also questioned the behavior of Reds local broadcasters Marty Brenneman and Joe Nuxall. Now, I'll tell you what, this almost got pushed off page 1 tonight. Ron Robinson came this close to pitching a perfect game. No Red has ever done that, but Robinson came close tonight. Against the Expos, you saw it on Channel 5. This is all he needed to win. Cal Daniels' solo shot teed him up real nice. Ron Robinson was awesome. He's going to get Hubie Brooks right here, and he's going to get him to strike out big. Whoosh! Chasing the outside pitch. Robinson had better stuff than he's ever had in his life. Pascal Perez just swinging it air. And when Robinson wasn't doing it, he had great help behind him. Watch Jeff Treadway go in the hole, stop, turn around, off his legs, and nail the runner at first. But Robinson had his dream shattered here. 2 outs into the 9th. The ball falls in left field. There goes the perfect game. There goes the no-hitter. Watch his reaction. Robinson knew all the way that the ball would fall in. 3-2 the final tonight. The Reds beat the Expos. Story more than that, the pitching of Ron Robinson. Oh, sure, he was disappointed about it. I mean, he came this close to history. 1 pitch. But he's not crying about it.
No, I just tried to get a curveball over. I found a pretty good pitch off, and then I came back with it again. Just didn't get it out there far enough, and he got a base hit. I'm just happy for him. I wish he would have got the no-hitter. That's my roommate, man. What can I tell you? 4 years with him up here. I was just as tickled to death as he was. I was keeping an eye on his wife in the stands because she's pregnant. I hope she's going to have that baby up there. Sure, I had the fever for a perfect game, but, maybe next time I'll get it.
Ron Robinson and John Franco. Robinson 1 pitch away from a perfect. Well, how come he can work? Now, here's a call that Pallone couldn't miss. Mike Schmidt, the batter, right? Here it is. And there it goes. Deep to left field. You can kiss it goodbye. Schmidt is now tied for 8th on the all-time home run list as the Phils tonight beat the Astros 7-1. So he's working and Pete's at home. We'll talk about that. Are you going to do something about that?
As a matter of fact, Saturday's run-in with an umpire down at Riverfront Stadium raises questions as to whether the punishment Pete got was all that appropriate. That's the subject of Jerry's commentary tonight. Jerry.
Thanks, Norma. Admittedly, it was hard to tell who the home team was, whether in fact this game was being played in Cincinnati or New York. And based on all the debris that was flying out of the stands in the general direction of baseball's worst umpire, New York would have been a good guess. But of course it wasn't. It was quiet old conservative Cincinnati going bonkers. And let's be honest, I don't care how big a fan you are, no one with any sense can justify the insanity of such acts, of trying to, or at least raising the possibility of inflicting serious bodily harm on a person because of a simple game. There's no room for throwing stuff. That's totally unacceptable. But now, having admitted that that certainly didn't make our town look real good, let's talk about what started all this and the National League president's ridiculous response. The root cause starts with Pallone, in my opinion, a totally incompetent umpire with no more business being on the field than I do. I mean, anybody can miss a call, but then delaying decisions so as runs can score and games can be lost. And there's been a whole history of this kind of a performance and run-ins with the Reds. Well, Major League Baseball, considering the price of tickets these days, has a responsibility to put only professionals on the field who don't disrupt through their incompetence and arrogance our national pastime. Arrogance? You got it. He blows the game, Pete goes out to argue, which is well within his rights, and umpire Pallone jabs him in the face. So Pete, as most humans would, shoves back. Not a response that will win him the Nobel Peace Prize, but at least understandable in light of the poke in the face. The outrage here is, considering the provocation, the length of the suspension. The fact that it was issued without first having a hearing where Pete could be heard. And where, oh, where is the punishment for the umpire? Since when may they hit ball players? And now National League President Giamatti summons Marty and Joe to New York because he thinks their comments on radio incited the crowd. Ridiculous. All they did was tell the truth. The umpire stinks. Well, now I'm saying it. Summon me to New York. Fact check.